Welcome back to the basics of DC machines. Till now, we have discussed the working principle of a DC motor and a DC generator. In this session, we'll be discussing about the constructional features of a DC machine, expressions for EMF, torque, and its circuit model, types of DC machines, and their applications. So, while explaining the working principle of a DC motor and a DC generator, we took help of a simple arrangement which consisted of a permanent horseshoe magnet. We also discussed that in practical machines, we don't use permanent magnets, we use electromagnets. And of course, the shapes are different in a practical machine. We also discussed that there is a coil which rotates and it is known as the armature, and there is a commutator which performs the function of DC to AC conversion in a motor and AC to DC conversion in a generator. So, these are the main parts for both a DC motor and a DC generator: the field winding, the armature winding, and the commutator. So, while explaining the working principle, we took help of a single coil, and the commutator had only two segments. But in practical machines, the number of conductors will be large. They will be connected in series and parallel so as to increase the voltage and current rating of the armature winding. Therefore, the commutator will also have the number of segments depending on the number of conductors. So, coming to the constructional features, all rotating machines have many common essential features, such as there will be a stationary member which is known as a stator. Like we saw here, that this magnet, this field winding, and the brushes, they are all stationary, so they form the part of stator. Similarly, there will be a rotating member which is known as the rotator. So in our example, we had armature winding and the commutator as parts of the rotor. Between the stator and rotor, there will be an air gap. There will be other parts such as the shaft, the bearings, the foundation, etc. So this is how the stator of a practical DC machine looks like. Here, these are the poles for for generating the magnetic field in the air gap. So in the poles we have concentrated windings in which DC is flown so as to create a magnetic field. If we see the cross section of this type of constructed machine, then it looks like this. So here, this is a two pole machine. These are the poles north and south, and here this is the concentrated field winding. We'll discuss it later on about the details. Similarly, the rotor has a common shaft on which the commutator is installed and the rotor core is installed. The rotor core consists of slots on which the armature conductors are placed. Then there are brushes which are stationary, which are in touch with the commutator. So coming to the stator part of a DC machine, the stator consists of this frame which is known as yoke. It is made of ferromagnetic material. The inner part of this yoke has a protruding pole, the salient pole, which is bolted to it, and on this pole there is a concentrated winding which is the field winding. So when the field current flows in this winding, a magnetic field is created in the air gap. The stator also carries the bearings, brush holders, end covers, etc. These field poles are made of a stack of steel plates which are riveted together. As far as the rotor is concerned, it consists of a shaft on which the commutator and the armature core is installed. The armature core has these slots on which the conductors of armature winding are placed. So this rotor is free to rotate inside the stator periphery, and this rotor is called as the armature. Also, these conductors which are placed in the slots, we have already discussed, they are connected in a series and parallel manner to make what we call as the armature winding. In this shaft, the commutator is also installed, and in a motor, it acts like a mechanical inverter, whereas it acts like a rectifier in a generator. These, the armature winding can be of two main types. One is known as the lap winding, in which the number of paths for flow of current that is equal to the number of poles in the machine. Whereas for a wave winding, the number of paths for flow of current is always 2. Now both in the case of a motor as well as a generator, we see that the armature conductors, they rotate in a magnetic field, and hence an EMF will be induced. In case of generator, that is the EMF which is required to supply current to the DC load. But in the case of a motor, this EMF is known as a back EMF. So here the generated EMF and in case of motor, the back EMF are calculated in a similar manner. So let us see how to calculate the EMF equation for a DC machine. Now there are a number of conductors, and in each conductor an EMF is generated. So the average EMF will be equal to sum of EMFs in all conductors which are connected in series in one parallel path, because when a series connection is connected in parallel, a number of conductors which are in series, and that series connections, they are connected in one parallel path, you get one EMF. So let us consider that is the total number of conductors in the winding, and A is the number of parallel paths obtained from the various series and parallel connections. So Z by A is the number of conductors in series in one parallel path. So if Eg is the EMF generated in one parallel path and E average is the EMF per conductor, we see that the EMF generated in one parallel path will be E average into Z by A. Now, as per the Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction, we know that average EMF generated in one conductor will be equal to the flux cut by it in 1 second. So let us assume that phi is the air gap flux per pole and P is the number of poles. So the total flux is P phi. And let us assume that capital N is the speed of the machine in rotation per minute. So the flux cut by one conductor in one revolution will be P phi, which is the total flux in the air gap. Since the machine is rotating with n rotations per minute, we see that the flux cut by one conductor in 1 second will be P phi into n by 60. So the average EMF for all the conductors, considering the parallel paths also, we get it as P phi nz by 60A. So this is the standard expression for the average EMF. Now this can be obtained in terms of speeds in other forms. For example, we can take the speed in rotation per second. Then the expression will be P phi Zn by A. We can also use the angular speed, which is omega m, measured in radian per second. So that average EMF will be obtained as Pz by 2 pi a into phi omega m. So as a summary, we see that the armature EMF, which is the back EMF in case of a motor, and generated EMF in the case of a generator, is directly proportional to the flux and the speed. Once we understand how to derive the EMF equation, making the circuit model of a DC machine becomes very easy. So, the electrical equivalent of a DC machine can be easily drawn by considering the following. We are assuming that Rp is the resistance of each parallel path shown here. Ea is the induced EMF in armature winding in each parallel path. Vt is the voltage across the armature terminals. So in case of motor, this is the applied voltage, and in case of generator, this is the voltage which is obtained at the load terminal. Ra is the armature resistance. So here Ra will be Rp by A, where A is the number of parallel paths. So the total voltage which is obtained from these number of parallel paths here is shown as Ea. So this is how the circuit model of the armature side looks like. The field winding can also be easily presented in the circuit model. So here the field winding is shown with an inductor which represents the winding. So Vf is the field voltage and If is the field current. So this is how a complete circuit model of a generator and a motor looks like. So in case of DC generator, if we apply KVL taking this armature as a loop, we obtain Vt as the armature EMF minus this voltage drop IaRa. While in the case of a motor, the applied voltage Vt will be equal to the back EMF plus this voltage drop IaRa. Obtaining the circuit model also helps us to derive the expression for torque. Now, an electromagnetic torque is developed in the machine when the current carrying conductors they are placed in a magnetic field. So this torque can be expressed in terms of the mechanical power and the angular speed. So power is equal to torque multiplied with the angular speed. So this Te here is the electromagnetic torque. Omega m is the angular speed in radian per second, and P is the power. So for DC motor, just now we got this expression that terminal voltage is equal to the back EMF plus Ia into Ra, where Ia is the armature current and Ra is the resistance of the armature. If we multiply both sides with Ia, we obtain VTIa is equal to EAIa plus Ia square Ra. So this is the power loss that is taking place in the armature, and VTIa is the power that we are supplying to the motor. So supplied power and power losses, if they are subtracted, the remaining power will be converted into mechanical power. So this EAIa is the power which gets converted into mechanical power. So we are writing P is equal to EAIa, and assuming the mechanical losses to be negligible here, that should be equal to Te into omega m. Now since we had obtained the armature EMF in terms of the flux and the angular speed omega m, we write Ka phi omega m Ia should be equal to Te into omega m. So what we see here is that the electromagnetic torque is directly proportional to the magnetic flux inside the air gap and the armature current. This is an important result. Now, we see that this flux is obtained from the field winding when an electric current flows into it. That is known as excitation. So a DC machine can work either as a generator or motor only if its field winding is excited with a DC or direct current. So there are two types of excitations. One is a separate excitation when you give a supply to the field winding, which is a separate supply, and self excitation in which the field winding itself is connected to the armature winding. So here, because the two windings are being connected to each other, there are three possible combinations. If you connect them in series, then the excitation is called series excitation and the machine is known as a series machine. If you connect them in parallel, then the excitation is called a shunt excitation and the machine is known as a shunt machine. A compound excitation, there is a combination of series and shunt excitation. So in a separately excited DC generator, what we do is the field winding is directly connected to a DC supply which is separately available, and you give mechanical power to the armature and you obtain a voltage which is now fed to the load. So this type of machine, separately excited DC generator, is usually employed in electroplating, electro-refining of metals, and in ship propulsion. This field current, we had seen that the voltage will be dependent on the flux and this flux is dependent on the field current. So this field current can be controlled if we employ a rheostat here. As far as the series generator is concerned, we see that the armature winding and the field winding, they are in series, both in the case of generator and a motor. Now, since the winding is in series, the number of turns a few cross section is more and hence this series winding has very low resistance. So both in the case of motor and generator, because they are in series, the armature current will be equal to the field current. As far as DC shunt generator or motor they are concerned, both the windings are connected in parallel here. So the field winding is wound with many turns of fine wire. So the resistance of shunt winding is high in this case. So that accordingly, by applying KVL, we can obtain the expressions for the terminal voltage in the case of a shunt generator and a shunt motor. Finally, DC machines are not very popular for generating applications because most of our power system is AC in nature, but still in very specialized applications such as electroplating, we employ a DC generator. They are also used for tacho operations where because the speed is directly proportional to the amount of voltage generated, so they are used as tacho generators. Similarly, a shunt motor is used as a constant speed motor, whereas mainly in traction applications we use series motor because here if you derive a relationship between torque and speed, you see that the torque is proportional to the square root of, I am sorry, the current is proportional to the square root of the torque. So for a 4 times increase in torque, the increase in current is only 2 times. So in most of our electric locomotives, we use DC series motors.